Have to start sitting down, please. We have a lot to cover today.
Where are you? All right. Well, we might. I don't know. Is Tom at our table or
I've
is he
seen
at
Rick,
Commerce
but I
table?
don't.
Okay. Hello, Jake.
I know.
How are you,
Hi,
sir?
Jamie. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
You too.
Oh, it's been a while. How have you been?
It's spring and you've
I'm
actually got
doing all
weather
right.
that warrants it. So.
Oh my goodness.
Very
yes,
good.
that's
In that
right.
weird
Oh, gosh.
space of, like,
Okay. Man, that was a
getting
fog.
ready to be up
those
there, you
first
know?
couple months.
Try not to say anything too dumb.
And Mike. Nice.
Mike? Can you clear Rick from out there somewhere before we get started? Retrieve Rick Rasmussen from out there somewhere before we actually start.
Hello, sir.
You can see you again.
Rick's lost, wandering the universe. Coming up with some new community deal, right?
Joey? I'm not sure. Rick? Okay, we're almost ready to start, guys. Okay, good morning, everybody. And welcome. Oh, good. Everybody's quiet now. I'm Ginny Gilliam, the President and CEO of the Coeur d'Alene Area Economic Development Corporation, also known as Jobs Plus. We're excited to see you all here and your numbers reflecting the importance of healthcare in this area. So CEOs, thank you for being here this morning. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and your concerns and your future plans with us. Understanding how important this is, my report to you today is in written format. It is inserted into your reports because we wanted to maximize the time for the panel. So in the report, we outlined key future-facing initiatives, the biosciences study, and its aim is to understand better how expanding into other elements of the healthcare industry will help our region better. Okay, there's also an update on what's going on with the Tech Hub, and then how growing the creative economy is really beneficial to the whole community. And then on top of all that, all three will be contributing greatly to the economic prosperity of our region. We also continued to support our partners focused on workforce development and the critical infrastructure around housing and childcare. So these initiatives, they broadened our scope of work, but they're very much in line with what we have done in the past traditionally, which is build a stronger, more dynamic future for our region by helping our businesses, diversifying our economy, and advancing job growth, okay? We also highlighted the economic impact of what all of you have helped this organization accomplish since 1987, and that's helping businesses create 9,000 direct jobs, and at a minimum that translates to $300 million in annual payroll circulating around our community. Plus, there's an additional 16,200 indirect jobs, and that's thanks to the power of the manufacturing industry multiplier. So economic development, and I say this all the time, is a team sport. It's a partnership, and it's about strategic collaborations, and that continues to be a hallmark of our operations. So as we continue to focus on these partnerships and strengthening our assets, coupled with the projected findings of the biosciences study, it is the perfect opportunity to tap into the power of healthcare as a driver for regional prosperity, not just for today, but well into the future. So with the broader scope of work, we need your help even more. So as an organization, we strategically embarked on a member investor growth campaign, okay? And it's not just for sustainability for our operations and our finances. It's also to make sure that we scale smart, to make sure that we meet the evolving needs of the region. And Mike will go into that in more detail in a short while. So through all this, one thing remains certain. Our focus remains clear. Help businesses grow jobs, strengthen our existing industries, attract the businesses of tomorrow into our area, and harness the power of partnership to pilot a thriving and competitive regional economy for our area. So now I'd like to hand the meeting over to Mike. He can get us started. Mike is our outgoing chairman of the board, and he is also the president and CEO of Intermax Networks.
Thank you all. Ginny, is this your water? No, I'm okay. I prefer whiskey. Lent is over. Let the party begin. Thank you, Ginny, and thank you. What a great crowd. There's really a good number of folks here, and I'm very proud about that. And this being my last official board meeting as chair, I'm excited for all the work that you all have done in the last few years. We have a great program, but I'd like to begin by asking you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we begin some of the normal program and before we get to our panel, I wanted to start with a blunt message. On the screens up in the sides, you'll see a few slides about sharing some of the reasons why economic development still matters. This is probably the most important takeaway we'd like you to have, is this is about why this agency and why these efforts are still important. Economic development is fundamental to our community in 5 key ways, and certainly each of those has derivations. It's about providing a future for our children, for our families, and for our neighbors. Investing in economic development ensures that future generations can thrive without having to leave home. Economic development is about stronger communities. I'll ask later for municipal elected officials to stand, and this is a critical part of their jobs, because focused economic growth leads to better jobs, better wages, home ownership, and better quality of life. Near and dear to my heart, and many, if not most of you, is the small business component of economic development. Small businesses thrive when we have a healthy economy. The jobs that are created in North Idaho are predominantly on small business side of the house, and we need an economy that is healthy to support that. Each job has a ripple effect. We've known this, economists can tell you, but the ripple effect of a single job has a compounding effect on the entire community and our region. Without city limits or without county borders, the entire region. And finally, there is a cost to doing nothing. Inaction leads to stagnation and decline. For those of you who have lived in other places, for those of you who have lived in cities in the Midwest, you know what stagnation and decline looks like. And although we have problems and issues with growth, I would much prefer them to stagnation and decline. And so economic development is critical. This organization has done vital work over the last several decades since it began. And that is the key point. The work being done on economic development today impacts the community in the future 10, 20, and 30 years. Ginny mentioned some historic numbers for the agency's work, but in just the last 10 years alone, CdAEDC has assisted 375 companies in either getting started, growing, or moving here to provide diverse and better paying jobs. More than 3,000 jobs have been created through that work in that time, and it has meant $270 million in direct corporate investment in Kootenai County. That's not to mention the ongoing payroll numbers, which you can see in your annual report. We need to keep moving forward on this initiative. As you can see in the annual report, we are looking forward to future decades by working on issues like the Tech Hub, which will create composite manufacturing jobs for America's aviation industry and which supports our national security. We're working on supporting groups building attainable housing for our workforce. Not an issue that was discussed when this agency was founded, but an issue that is critical right now, particularly to the 3 CEOs you'll hear from today, finding housing for an employment base. We're helping bolster and build the talent pipeline for staffing. We need to have a steady stream of employees for the companies and industries that are already here in our county. Steady stream of educated employees, K-12, college, NIC, 4-year, and beyond. I'll be honest, we've had 2 municipal governments who have de-emphasized economic development by cutting the agency out of their annual budgets. Even though we still do the work on behalf of their constituents in the larger community, regardless of borders in the cities. We've worked hard to replace those dollars with private sector funding, but we need to ask you for help. We want to specifically thank entities like the cities of Rathdrum, Post Falls, and Coeur d'Alene, who are here and have all stayed the course. Companies and groups, just to name a few, like Mountain West Bank, the Lakeside Companies, STCU, and the Spokane International Airport, in fact, have been companies that have invested or increased their contributions to the agency and to the work of economic development. We thank them for their belief in the community. Let's give them a round of applause. I particularly like having elected officials in the room to give them a round of applause. It feels good, right, Woody? Credit. On your tables are these cards. And what this card is, I'd like to ask you to consider, if you are not a member, joining our agency as a member investor. If you are a member, please consider increasing your contribution by a specific percentage or by a defined amount per year. We suggest 5 or 10%. If your contribution today is $500 and you want to double that, we'll take it. If it's $25,000 you want to double it, we'll take that too. But regardless, every dollar counts. And it's important for us. If you want to meet with us, board, staff, and talk a little bit more about the work, please put your information down and we'll find you and look you up. You can leave it on your table. Our team will be going around afterwards. Thank you for hearing the ask up front, which is usually done at the end, but I wanted to make sure that we had your attention and everybody was still here when we talk about the why for economic development. We have some special dignitaries here that I'd like to introduce, particularly economic development dignitaries. The director of the Idaho Department of Commerce, Tom Keeley, is here. Tom, would you stand? Let's give Tom a welcome. A gentleman from the private sector who's helping the governor in doing the important work of commerce, and thank you, Tom, for being here. The Idaho Governor's Economic Advisory Council, some people refer to it as EAC. That sounds a little bit too much like a cat to me, but in North Idaho, they're all here, and they've joined us for this event. There's 2 tables. Could the Economic Advisory Council members please stand up and be recognized? There's one. We've got more folks. Thank you. Eve Knutson gets to stand up twice in this lunch, so we'll talk about that later. The Idaho Workforce Development Council Executive Director, Wendy Sechrist, is here. Wendy, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. I believe both of these folks are here. Governor Little's North Idaho Field Director and Policy Advisor, Jake Geringer. Jake, are you here? Hi, Jake. He's in the back waving. I knew Jake when he was a young boy, and now he catches arrows for a living, and you do a great job of it, Jake. Representing Senator Jim Risch, Mark Kilmer. Representing Senator Mike Crapo, Julie Smith. Mark and Julie, are you here? If you are, please. Thanks, Julie. We see you in the back. And there's Mark. Thank you both for being here. We have a number of local elected officials, from mayors and council members and NIC board members and library trustees. Can I ask all of you who are elected locally to please stand up and be recognized by your peers for being here today? Stand up and remain standing. Thank you very much. Ryan Davis, you didn't stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan Davis is a newly appointed Post Falls City Council member. And if you meet him afterwards, you'll see he has a collar on that is incredibly floral and loud. What we can assume is that Ryan Davis is trying to be the Woody McEvers of Post Falls, Wood. I'll ask your wife if you're succeeding at that or not, Ryan. That's what you get when you don't stand up. I told you. Thank you, Wes. Ryan's a client and a colleague, so we can tease him. I would really like to recognize our board of directors. We have over 30 incredible community leaders on our board. So on the back of your program is a full list of our board. At this time, I'd like to ask all of our board directors to stand up and be recognized and appreciated for your efforts. Thank you all. We have a 4-person office team that relies on all of you, our partners, to successfully help businesses. Lauren Witten-Kaboth, Lauren is here. Josh Wise is back at the table. Bud Sabicka and Jenny Gilliam. Guys, thank you for your work. Stand if you're not already standing. Jenny, there's Lauren in the back. Bud is nearby. And now for our sponsors, folks, this event wouldn't happen, our agency wouldn't exist without the work of some incredible sponsors. So I'd like to introduce the folks, or name each of these groups, and I'd like you to hold your applause until we're at the end of this list. These are our premier sponsors. Our newest and first-year premier sponsor is Pinkerton Retirement. Thank you, Pinkerton. The Jacqueline Land Company and Riverbend Commerce Park, a returning sponsor. STCU, Spokane International Airport, ICCU, and the Standcraft companies are all returning. Please join me in thanking our premier sponsors. This event is as big and successful as it is, and the work we do because of you. We have event sponsors, our specific event sponsors. 4 of these are new, which is a great signal of vibrance and growth. The Coeur d'Alene Resort, Numerica Credit Union, Lewis Clark State College, their Healthcare Education Center, Kootenai Health, the Young Construction Group, and Interstate Concrete and Asphalt. Thank you all for being event sponsors. Please. Finally, we'd like to thank our member investors of our organization. They are listed on your programs. Every person, whether you be an individual contributing $100 a year or our biggest investors, is equally important to the work that we do. So I would like you to look at your program guide for the complete list, and remember that whatever level of contribution, it is all critically important. Let's give our member investors a round of applause. Now, because we're gathered here, this is officially our annual meeting, so there's a business element to it. It'll be short. But we have to elect and ratify our new board members and announce our officers for the upcoming year. So the following are our incoming members of the board. Please stand when I call your name. Mayor Woody McEvers, City of Coeur d'Alene. Mayor Mike Hill, City of Rathdrum. Is Mayor Hill here? Leon, is Mayor Hill? I didn't see him. Okay, we can still vote him in if he's not here. And Ryan Knipp, Parkwood Business Properties. So at this time, I would like to ask for a motion from a current member investor of the EDC group that we elect the slate of new board members as presented. Jessica? We have a second. Brad? I, Mike Kennedy, approve your motion and your second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Great, congratulations, motion carries. And the new slate for the executive committee, which is actually voted on by the board, will be presented in our next meeting, and that would be Chair Brad Marshall, who's will be incoming chairman from JUB Engineers. Kara Hikola will be the vice chair, attorney at Witherspoon Brassage McPhee. Tag Jacqueline of the Jacqueline Land Company, Medalist Development and Bighorn Ventures will be our treasurer. Jessica Bauman will be our secretary of Express Employment Professionals, and I will be the past chair and the last year's news, Mike Kennedy. So thank you all for your sincere commitment and for the work you've done and continue to do to help our region thrive. That's all the official business, but I do want to note that we have one departing board member, Chris Meyer, who has served as a board member and an officer for many productive years. Chris is here. We appreciate your dedicated service. Stand to be recognized. Thank you. Let's give Chris a round of applause. Ryan tells me he may send you to some meetings, so you're not going too far, and we need your help, but thank you very much. So the next part, a couple of years we have had the privilege of having the governor here in person. He was trying to get here for this event. His schedule wouldn't permit, but he sent a video for us, and so I want to introduce him, and then we'll listen to the governor's short video. As many of you know, Governor Brad Little is Idaho's 33rd governor, and he was born and raised on his family's ranch in Emmett. He spent much of his professional life in the ranching industry after graduating from the University of Idaho in 1977. Did I hear a go, Vandals? You people are pathetic. It's always there. As I said to Nick Swain, I paid several years of college to a Vandal who's now graduating from BSU, but I don't want to get into that with you. Have you been to Moscow? No, just kidding. He also, Governor Little, has extensive experience in the Idaho banking and manufacturing industries. Brad was first elected governor in 2018 and re-elected in 2022. Prior to serving as governor, he was appointed to fill a state Senate vacancy in 2001, elected to 4 consecutive terms, and was the majority caucus chair before being elected as lieutenant governor in 2008. He served in that office for 10 years. His tenure as governor is marked by unprecedented red tape reduction, record tax relief, and historic investments in education, workforce training, and infrastructure. He's married to Talisa Solon Little of Weiser and has 2 sons and 6 grandchildren. With that, are we ready with the video, gents? Let's hear from Governor Little.
Hi, I'm Governor Brad Little. I'm sorry I was not able to attend your annual meeting in person, but I am grateful for the opportunity to share some updates from our legislative session we just wrapped up a few weeks ago. As you gather to talk about the healthcare landscape in North Idaho, I'm happy to report that Idaho Launch will continue after another successful legislative session. Healthcare jobs are the #1 profession students are using their launch grants to pursue. Launch delivers on our promise to young Idahoans that we will make our state the place where a rewarding, prosperous career awaits them. I appreciate everyone here today for your support of this innovative, game-changing workforce program that is creating more opportunities for our young people while helping meet the needs of our employers in a variety of industries, including healthcare. To address our state's physician shortage this session, we also secured funding to increase the number of medical residency positions by 15. Which will especially help address the need in underserved areas. We also took steps to contain costs for Medicaid while ensuring Idahoans have access to quality health care. Outside of health care, we scored big wins for public education, transportation, water, fire, public safety, and foster care while delivering another round of historic tax relief. Thank you again for the opportunity to share with you some of what we are doing to continue Idaho's strong track record of success. Everyone here today plays a big role in keeping our North Idaho citizens safe and healthy. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Governor Little. I feel the need to say, Dr. Andy Fields, Andy, I was just kidding about the U of I joke. It's okay. I just knew I'd get a Go Vandals. I don't want to get home and get hung. We stored up, we contracted some of our longer program because we think the topic today is so important. I'd like to ask our panelists, our three CEOs to come up, and while they're making their way up, I will just ask you, Mike, Rick, Jamie, come on up. We are going to have, each of the three CEOs will sit in one of these three chairs. I'll grab this one and go up the other side or this side. We went out to our membership to ask for questions, and so we have a number of questions that have been pre-submitted from you and your colleagues at your companies, which is great. We also have, if you have a question you'd like to write and submit, put it on a piece of paper, and we'll have somebody walk around to your table, and Lauren is looking through that. She can bring them up. But we also, depending on time, might have a few opportunities for questions from the audience. And we'll have Brad Marshall and Kara Hikola with microphones doing that. For those of you who are old enough to remember Phil Donahue, that's their sort of role there. As I said, their bios are in your programs, and so I'd really like to begin by thanking each of you gentlemen for being here. Jamie Smith, Kootenai Health, Mike Baker from Heritage Health, and Rick Rasmussen. I'm going to ask each of you to give a brief introduction, a few minutes to talk about what's happening in your world before we go to the questions. But I do want to begin with one request. This is a raise your hand question. Would the three of you raise your hand if you have ever been inducted into the North Idaho Athletic Hall of Fame? There we go. It was last week, Rick. It was in the news. Jamie and Mike, you've got your work cut out for you.
Really? Gosh.
It's a lot of work.
I played basketball in high school.
There you go. I'm 5'6". I didn't play anything in high school. We'll start with the guy whose hand raised. Rick, we'll have you go first, then we'll just move down for Mike and Jamie to give an opening comments, and then we'll go to questions. So Rick, take it away.
Question, you want to know what's going on at the hospital?
Yes.
Yeah, so we got a lot going on right now. We're very excited. Our North Star is community, and we want to, help as many people in our community, and we want to hire as many people in our community. And so we got a lot going on. We are right in the middle of our 10th capital project in the last 24 months. We are keeping the team at Standcraft out there very busy. We're right on the tail end of the final two projects that will be up and going. We're adding a new access spine building on our campus, and we're adding 2 more additional ORs that will be open up this summer. We just added mammography and just a lot of continuing to figure out what the community needs are, how can we partner with our friends here, and how can we continue to get great health care in North Idaho. There's so much health care that goes to Washington every day. My goal is that we partner up, we make it about Idaho, and we make sure that we take care of people in Idaho. So it has been a great partnership with these folks and great for our community. And we just want to make sure that we give first-grade health care, I call it varsity-level health care, to everybody in our community. So that's what my goal is.
Thanks, Rick. Mike?
Good old. It's kind of funny sitting in the middle of these guys because so we're on the primary care side of healthcare. We actually really want to keep people out of the hospitals, right? Our job is to do that. We need hospitals. We have to have the partnerships, and it's so fun to look at the partnerships that have evolved over the years between our organizations and how we can tackle different components of healthcare. I love the work that we do. It is so, like primary care, all of healthcare is hard, but I'm gonna say woe is me. Primary care is really hard. We're kind of like the teachers in healthcare. Like everybody knows how important they are, but all the funding, right? Like it's a different aspect, but we're all trying to find our way through this. And when you find those things that work, there's a resonance, there's a frequency that starts to happen, and it feels like magic. And we've seen that happen lots of times over the years. One of the first real incredible things was when we worked on the crisis center here in the community. We partnered with Kootenai Health, with Northwest, with everybody came around, and we recognized that behavioral health was a critical component we were so short of that service in our community. People were dying because we didn't have access to crisis services. And then crisis, you want to catch people in crisis, but the goal is to keep people from getting to crisis. And so our organization, we really focused on behavioral health over the last several years. And it was so fun in January to welcome the community into the first phase of the Center for Healthy Living, where we consolidated 6 of our behavioral health facilities into one site. And I talked about the magic that happens. Like, you walk into that building and it feels different. There's something special happening. And I get emails and messages from the employees that work there, and they talk about how being able, as a therapist, to walk over to the people in psych and like walking the patient over, or hey, I was talking in the break room with another provider and I learned this. There's this real connection that's happening. And it started with the community stepping up and saying, we're going to do something different in the behavioral health front. For the first time in the history that I've been here, we have same-day access for therapy services. You can walk in, not in crisis, but I might just be having a bad day and be ready to talk to a therapist, and we'll start a conversation with you. We'll get you into the process. And that's huge. That's huge for our community. We've been working really closely with Rick and Dr. Duke over at Northwest Specialty Hospital. My daughter has endometriosis. It's a really awful, terrible disease. Talk to me about it sometime. But there was this gap of 8 to 10 years to diagnosis. Like, women would just be suffering and suffering and suffering, and it's 8 to 10 years till people figured it out and finally got the diagnosis. Well, working through the healthcare experience of my family and then working with Dr. Duke and Rick over there, we can get a diagnosis within 2 to 3 months. It's fast. It's incredible to see what happens when you train primary care and you partner with your hospital friends and you get work done. That's what's happening in our community, and we should be so proud of the work that we're doing in this community. It takes all of us figuring it out, and that's what excites me about the future of healthcare is all of the resources we have together, the friendly relationships we have, and I think we're all looking out toward the future to try to figure out how to be best at what we do and then partner with those that can do other things better.
Jamie Smith. Thank you, Mike. Jamie, you're CEO of Kootenai Health. You've been here just over a year.
Yes.
And I'd just like you to look to your future, your follicle future in this business line.
I know. Gosh. Well, I just have to criticize Mike for wearing a tie.
I know.
Yeah, no doubt, yeah. I'm with Jamie on that, yeah.
I brought the jeans, though, so we're good.
Yeah, Mike, I have celebrated my first year anniversary, and it's been a great first year, and met a lot of you. And I just want to, first of all, say thank you to the folks in this room, because without a vibrant business community, you couldn't have a successful healthcare sector. Right? We need each other, and that's what's really special about this organization as well. One of the things I've done in my first year, coming from other markets and other places, is to hold up a mirror to this community and tell you how special that the healthcare is in this community. And Kootenai Health is certainly a big part of that, but we're here with a lot of other folks because not every community has the healthcare that we have, especially the size of our community. We punch way above our weight in the sense that our sophistication with specialty services, access, specialist physicians and programs, again, you would not see in a community of this size, except for the tremendous work that you all have done along with the healthcare providers to build it over the course of the last few decades. And I know that I walked into this great situation and I stand on some really broad shoulders, but it's exciting to report to you, coming from other places, how much you should appreciate what we have here and how proud you should be of what we've built. That being said, we have a lot to do going forward, too. And so Kootenai Health's real, I think, niche in this healthcare space is specialty services. We certainly provide primary care. We provide other services at the base level of the pyramid, but we really specialize in those smaller specialty programs: heart surgery, neurosurgery, trauma, complex general surgery, medical subspecialties like neurology, endocrine, and other things that are very hard to find, frankly. Coming from Denver, I can tell you that our wait times for neurology, for rheumatology, for endocrine services were way longer than they are here in Kootenai Health, believe it or not. So we really think that that is what we bring to the table in terms of value, not only for Kootenai County, but for our entire region. And Kootenai's been on a journey to become a more regional destination, and I think has become very successful in that. And to Rick's point earlier, we are keeping more Idahoans in Idaho for their care. And a lot of the folks that used to leave Moscow or Sandpoint or Post Falls and go across the border to seek specialty services, we're providing those here now for them. And so that's great. Our transfer center has been really successful. Our level 2 trauma program has been very successful. And all that does is serve to keep people closer to home. I think they get better care also. Not to mention, we keep jobs and we keep the margin that those services produce in our community as well. So I won't drone on, but we have an exciting future. We just announced our Post Falls campus called the Prairie Medical Center, which we're excited to develop over the next few years, along with Parkwood, as well as our partner Multicare. And look forward to talking more about that in the future.
Great, Jamie, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, I'm going to go back down and have you answer this question first. It's a good news question. It's a positive piece. Can you share a significant success, a positive development, a recent breakthrough, an initiative, or a policy change that has improved your health outcomes and contributed to regional economic prosperity? That goes to you, Danielle.
It goes to me, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, gosh, there's a lot to that question. I think the one thing that I would highlight is our women's services. So we know we have a challenging environment in our region, in our state. But that being said, Kootenai Health has a wonderful women's services division that provides labor and delivery, GYN surgery, and NICU services for our smallest patients. And I can tell you that the level of service we provide is equivalent, for the most part, to any large medical center in the country. And I think that's really important for a growing area, and the fact that we serve such a large regional area with those kind of specialized services. So I would call that out as one thing that we have developed over time, and really we've reached a critical mass in that kind of program to be the best of the best. I mean, there's certainly things we don't do, but there's not very many. We take babies down to 26 weeks now, which is, some of those babies can fit in the palm of your hand. And so we do all of that specialty services as well as all of the basic services that go along with that service line. I would call that out.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll point back to the behavioral health because again, it's one of those community needs that, like, I can't say we've met it, right? I mean, there's still so much demand out there, but just walking into that facility and seeing the levels of services from, kids to seniors, all across the spectrum, accessing different levels of behavioral health services. So traditional therapy, psychiatric services, medication management, case management, the support that goes into that. It's just been such a huge win. And to hear the success stories of patients that we've interacted with, it'll break your heart that people have had such a tough life. I mean, you hear these stories of the lives that our patients are leading and the challenges they're facing, but then you see this like triumph when they have a breakthrough, when I made it to my first job. I got out of the house for the first time in 3 months. I mean, these little steps that we probably all take for granted, but just to see that light and the magic like turn on when people find a reason to have hope again. And I'm just so excited about that work we're doing. And to be able to move the medical and dental and pharmacy services into the next phase, that will just compound that and continue to lift up the rest of the community.
I would say we've had a lot of good wins. One of them that I'm really proud of is our mammography. You know, it's one of the things, it's not a service line you make a lot of money on, but when they shut down a mammography unit over in Liberty Lake, over in the Valley area. And so we get a lot of patients that come over that way. And so Kootenai does a phenomenal job, and we just want to support our folks. And to Jamie's point, we bring folks from Sandpoint and Moscow and other folks, and we're able to get people in quicker. We're able to, we have right now a 48-hour that if somebody has found something in their screening, we can get back to them within 48 hours. I've had a friend of mine down in Vegas that went in, waited 9 months to get in. They finally got in down in Vegas 9 months later. They found something. It was 38 days until the next appointment to find out the screening, how to go in and actually have it tested. And during that 38 days, this gal went really, WebMD and went out and, corrected her will and started talking about her kids have, you need to have kids, I want to be grandmother, and just went a lot of dark places. And so, by having 2 places in our town, both accredited, that can come in, get them in quickly, get them back in, we're within, 24, 48 hours. You could then do something about it, and we have great oncologists in town that we can then have a plan and get these people, and your success rate becomes that much higher. And so having that here, again, to Jamie and Mike's point, is just phenomenal. You don't always have that in a community. And that shutting down, and the one that's we're actually 35% coming over from Washington to come have mammo because they can get in, they can have it tested. And so it's something that, just in that lag time, you feel really good that, maybe we're helping to save 3, 4, 5 lives, and that's just, if we save one, it's worth it. And so it's pretty special what we're trying to do.
Very true. Mike, this next question, I'll start with you. And you mentioned the word, and so one of our members asked this question they wanted to hear. What partnerships or collaborations between business or healthcare, education have been most effective in addressing healthcare needs and building a more prosperous and healthy community?
Yeah, I think that's what this community is so good at. There's so many examples of that. I look at, over the last couple of years, all of us are struggling to find people to work in healthcare. There's always this pattern, like we have MAs that bounce from each of our organizations. So somebody gives a 50-cent raise, and then there's a 75-cent raise, and there's a $1 raise, and it just it cycles through because we don't have enough people in our community, and especially in that medical assistant space. But being able to look at the programs out at K-Tech with NIC, people really have stepped up and provided programs. We had a moment there in our organization where I heard the words, "We have too many MAs."
Oh, geez.
Now,
I've never heard that.
That lasted for maybe an hour. But it's that healthcare workforce. And so watching the partnerships with our education partners come together and design programs to help us with a workforce. You look at MA, nursing, there's so many programs out there that are helping to feed, but they've been developed because they have asked, what do you need? And they'll partner with us to build that. So those are huge. And I love watching the other just private partnerships come together that we all have, trying to just improve access to care through any of the relationships that we can build.
Yeah, I'm going to build on that. You stole my thunder a little
Sorry.
Me too.
But our partnerships with the higher education institutions in the state are just tremendous. And so NIC, University of Idaho, ISU, Lewis and Clark, I'm probably leaving something out, but we serve all those institutions in various ways. And Kootenai Health, as well as Northwest, really provide the only clinical training site for a lot of these higher level jobs, such as imaging and surgery techs and nursing, PAs and so forth, and even other jobs that need that hospital level experience to fulfill their requirements. And so we actually are being asked all the time to offer up more of that to other institutions. But we always prioritize Idaho first because we want to keep our students here in Idaho. We want to show them our culture. We want to show them their future, and we want to hire them. We want to capture the best folks out of our programs to stay here and be a part of our community. So I would call those partnerships out as being, and they're just, it's such a neat thing to see a young person start out maybe as an MA or as a CNA or an imaging tech, and the next thing you know, 10 years down the line, they're a director, right? Or they moved into some other field because healthcare is such a broad array of careers. And that is the one thing I think that, believe it or not, we complain about workforce. Well, again, we have it pretty good here. We have a great number of programs. We have great people in our institutions who like to train and educate. And we have a great place to live, right, when they do end up coming to that point. Now, the affordability of housing is a problem we'll touch on later. But I think to some degree, we talk about the tech hub. There's also a concept of a healthcare hub. Birds of a feather flock together, right? And as you, we talk about physicians and recruiting physicians from outside our market. Well, guess who is the most effective recruiter of physicians? Other physicians that already live here. Guess who recruit imaging techs? The imaging techs that already work here and sing our praises and bring people. So there is a sense that we can become, I believe, a healthcare hub in this region.
Thanks, Jamie. And, you know, as a member of the community and having been involved in this board and others, I think it's important for us to say, particularly Rick and Jamie, the history of Kootenai Health, the Northwest Specialty Hospital, has over the years been tense in some areas. Competition can breed that. But I can watch, and we all can see, the relationships, it starts at the top, that you two have, and it has made a difference in healthcare in the community. And so I think you both deserve credit for that, working through and becoming real collaborators. So I appreciate your efforts there.
Yeah, you know, Mike.
So you want me to take that, or am I up next?
You can.
Well, Rick and Mike were the first two people to reach out to me when I got here.
Right, and so, because it was not always this way, I'm just being honest with that. And I have four partners. Partnership's a big word. I'm a big networker. I know a lot of people. I look in the room, and there's a lot of friends here. And I did reach out to Jamie, because I did not have the greatest relationship with John Ness, and I'm not a rearview mirror person. Let's go forward. So I reached out to Jamie right off the bat, and I said, hey, we're having an issue with cardiology. He stepped up, Dr. Wallace and team. We don't have cardiology. We don't want it. He got out and went out and found us, you know, and we got support. So we're able to get our community members in with Kootenai Health. So personally, thank Jamie. You know, he stepped up. He made it about the patients and not about the community. I think the next one has to do with our relationship with all the education. So Colby's in the room. He came back. I don't have a teacher to go teach the CMA class. So they count me in. I put the money in. We paid for the teacher. So now we're graduating 40 kids. LCSC's in the house. They're phenomenal for their nurses. And then we have the U of I, the WWAMI folks are here today, and those are the next level of teachers. We have NIC. We hire 56 of their 60 services at NIC offices. We have HVAC. We have all these jobs that you don't think about. I have 2 chefs that went through their culinary program. We have, you know, we hire a lot of folks. You know, we have accountants. We have folks. So you think about NIC and you think about what Ryan Davis and the Save NIC, it was saving our community, because we need the way, you know, and going out, and President Swain staying here and fighting for this town, and the thing is just huge. And so, you know, we've had great Educate Post Falls, and we partner with them, and we Post Falls with Dr. Hawker. So I think education. I think 2 other ones that I want to talk about are government partnerships. So we have our friends from the city of Post Falls here. Mayor Jacobson used to babysit me when I was a little kid a long, long time ago. And when we need to get stuff done, I talk to fellow CEOs at other hospitals, and they will go months to get a permit for something like that. Our surgery center was permitted in 3 days. And then we had stuff going on, and to have partnerships, Troy Tymason, and be able to go out and to work with our community. And that's the same thing that, you know, our Jobs Plus need, or Edicon, or whatever. I'm always going to be Jobs Plus for me. So, but when they go out, and to have partners that will go out and say, let's make it about the jobs coming into town. Listen, Carol, the red tape, we signed the Athol certificate of occupancy on the mayor's John Deere in his front yard of his house. We went to his house, he signed the CO right on his John Deere in there, and that's how getting things done. It's working with the Ryan Day, who are now on these committees, the Troys, everybody. That is how you get business done. That's how other businesses are gonna wanna come here, because they have great education? Do they have the top scores like Post Falls does? Do they have like good kids? Do they have the workforce? And the final one is with the business community. We rent from Ryan Day. We go out and they're Ryan Nip, and these guys are very, very good partners there. Our banking partners. We have Stancraft. We have other building partners. John Young has built for us. Stancraft's built for us. And then the subs, the ACIs, and we use Stork. We use the local people in our community. So when they're going to have jobs, they're not over there worrying about going to the Tri-Cities and having jobs, that are going to be maybe paying a little more. They will come here and work on our jobs here locally, and they care about it. They go like, I'm going to have a say, and they're going to hit timelines. They're going to do things right, because they know that eventually it's going to be somebody's brother, cousin, sister, relative. Intermac's making sure our phones work. I mean, all this stuff ties into play here. And because the businesses say, we want to have a good program. We want to have Kootenai be the best regional hospital possible. We need Mike and his team to have the best support that we could help everybody in our community. And we can't do it alone. We need our business partners. We need our political partners. We need our partners for me. It's no good for me and Jamie to fight and go off. We got to be working together, and and that's my goal. And as long as I'm here pushing hard for this, it's going to be that way.
Thank you, Rick. We are. We're so interconnected. Jamie, every meeting we all go to, we're working with our friends and partners, and we all bring something to the table, and we take that skill set and make our community better. All of our facilities and everything that we do, and it all happens because there's a partnership with skilled people that we can work with, and we all trust each other, which is just.
Yeah, we were trying to support NIC in the past with their Fruiter Leacher, and I was told to pound sand by Mr. Ness. I reached out this time and said, we need to come out with a united front for NIC. Jamie's hand right up, Mike hand right up, and we did a full-page ad with our three businesses saying, we support NIC. Unprecedented, and that's what we need to do.
Folks, what you just heard is why Rick Rasmussen's the premier nonprofit fundraiser, because if he gets you on the phone, you're not saying no to him. It's just, at some point, it's going to be there. All right, all this sunshine aside,
No.
what are the biggest challenges facing healthcare right now, and the system specifically that impacts regional health and prosperity? Jamie, I'll start with you.
Oh man, where do I start? Yeah, there are a lot of challenges with healthcare. I think the macro answer to that is just uncertainty, right? Just at the federal level and at the state level to some degree, there's just a lot of change and a lot of uncertainty. And so that does have a chilling effect, right? In terms of how you plan for the future, if you don't know and have the ability to predict things as well. But that being said, I guess to be more specific, we're feeling at the state level in particular quite a bit of adversarial approach to healthcare. And I'm not really sure where that comes from, I'm new to the state. We had a lot of legislation this session that almost all of it was negative. Whether it was questioning our property tax exemption as a not-for-profit healthcare institution, Medicaid funding, graduate medical education was at risk at one point. And I would kind of beg the question, at some point, Rick made the point, government and industry are partners at the end of the day. And if they're in conflict, that is typically a bad thing for the industry and for the future. I can tell you, coming from Colorado, as an analogy, Colorado passed some huge regulation on oil and gas a few years ago. Well, guess what? All the investment left the state, right? All the talent left the state. And if the state isn't a good place to do business, and in this case, a good place to do healthcare, you will eventually see less investment, less talent, less physicians, et cetera, and that's not good for anybody. So that's maybe my macro answer, but the one specific one I would call out is reimbursement. And so you may not know this, but Kootenai Health has 65% government payers in our payer mix. So mostly Medicare, some Medicaid. Well, they pay below our costs. So we rely on you all, thank you very much, as employers who provide healthcare benefits to their employees to make up that difference. It's a cost-shifting system. So to the extent that we rely more and more on that government pay side, we have to then come back to you with asking for more and more. And that's not a healthy equation either. And so the Medicaid funding in particular in the state is very low. It's very hard to qualify for. I'm not judging the policy, I'm just telling you what the implications are. And by the way, people that are on Medicaid, it's mostly a transitory program. It isn't a lifelong program. People do go in and out of that phase. And also, it is something that pays us a little bit because the people don't go away, they just have no payer source at all, right? So it becomes true charity care, which we're happy to provide as a not-for-profit, but there's only so much that you can do. And as the sisters used to say, no margin, no mission. We have to have a margin to reinvest and provide capital and hire people and pay them well and so forth. But
And the nuns were the best business people in our Catholic faith, so I
they're
just.
tough, they're tough.
For that.
So I would say reimbursement is the biggest challenge, and where that is trending.
Like, challenges.
Yeah, I think the theme of the day probably for us and everyone in the room really is uncertainty, right? It's really hard to run a business when it's tweets and random orders that like we just can't understand. So it's really hard to know where to go when everything is just so chaotic. So uncertainty, but I'd say even a little bit below that, it's kind of the culture of divisiveness in our community. So I'll use an example. I think at the start of this legislative session, Medicaid is a really important resource for people in our state. It's always controversial and people want to just cut it. And if you cut a funding source, it doesn't mean the healthcare needs go away. Like we have to have a back door to provide care. And so if a funding source is going to be cut, you can't stop there. You need to say, and we're going to, this is what it could look like. I'm all for finding change and reducing waste and all of that stuff. But this legislative session was really challenging. But the relationships, it would have been really easy for all of us to go to our corners and say, hey, those guys are losers, they hate healthcare, they want to destroy the state, yada, yada. And then the other side say, oh, these people that just care about healthcare, right? Like we could have stayed in our corners, but we didn't this time. I want to give credit to Jordan Redmond. Jordan and I have developed a relationship over the last couple of years. We've been able, I've had some times where my mom would be really embarrassed at the word choices I was using. I was really frustrated with some stuff that happened, but Jordan was somebody that would listen. And over the time that we've been able to get to know each other, we found out how to work together. And so the real threat this session was that Medicaid expansion would be repealed. That honestly would be devastating to all of us across the state if there's just no funding source, because all of a sudden it converts to charity care, and now we're back to, okay, we need to raise $20, $30, $40 million every year in our community to cover charity care. If that's the direction the community wants to go, awesome. We need some really good fundraising. But through the time that we were able to spend, we were able to really work with Jordan, who in turn we worked with our North Idaho legislators really stepped up around the Medicaid side this year and helped us build a bill that it's not perfect. We don't love everything in it, but it protected Medicaid and gave us an opportunity to negotiate a better future for that. That only happened because we put our gloves down and we had relationships and we talked. That, to me, that is the biggest threat in everything that's happening right now is we're all standing in our corners or people are isolated. We're not all at events shaking hands and getting to know each other and knowing, hearing about, just being a parent and taking kids to all the sports events and, everything that Rick does. We celebrate our lives with each other because we're friends and we know each other. If we lose that is my fear, is that the North Idaho we know, it does disappear and it becomes this divisive, polarized place that it's heartbreaking to hear that. And I'm an optimist. I know that there's a path through this, but we have to get back to the spot where it's okay to disagree, but let's find a path forward. So That's my biggest concern.
Rick, thank you.
So I would, the uncertainty, you don't know the tariffs, you don't know how much stuff you have coming in, you don't know the reimbursement, but what we talk about every leadership meeting, it's workforce development, workforce development, workforce development. You look at how many kids are in the schools and how many are going out of the workforce, how many are coming into the workforce, how many kids are in our schools, and every year as enrollment's going down and the community are moving here, we have the silver tsunami hitting North Idaho, and they're not bringing in younger kids. And so when you look at our workforce development, how many are going out on that end and how many are coming in. And so, we just had our first person that went through and had a CMA, CNA, then became an LPN, an RN, and BSN, all while working for us through our tuition reimbursement and all through LC and SC and U of I on campus here in Coeur d'Alene and with NIC. And they're able to do it all right here locally. So it's trying to get that workforce development. But the underlying iceberg behind the workforce development and trying to find kids to go into that and the K-Techs and all that could do all the great job they want is housing and childcare. When you go out, we lost folks just yesterday to childcare. I've lost doctors to the housing price. So if a doctor can't come here and live with the, when I'm younger and I don't want to go back and I've lived here my whole life and, my family owned Airpoint Resort and now it's Gaza Ring. I can't even drive up there now. I tried to go show my daughters and they said, you can't even be on this dock, sir. I said, I built these docks and they didn't seem to care. But, I went out there and I'm like, trying to grow in what we could do for our folks and what Chief Allen and Hilo and Tyrell did yesterday. And we had over $400,000 they gave out yesterday to kids. We want to try to help and drive that. But if childcare, my daughter's moving back to town. We're very excited about that. Bill Radobenko's excited because my daughter married his son and we got her granddaughter and they're coming back and they're going to live in Dalton and go to Dalton Elementary and Canfield and Coeur d'Alene High School and they're going to be back in our community because they were paying $32 an hour for childcare. So whatever but that's coming here. I hear what our staff says and I just feel heartbreaking for them, and so that's why I'm so passionate. We got some Boys and Girls Club folks here and, we're trying to help out on Fridays. I think there's 29 Northwest kids that go to Boys and Girls Club and we're trying to find that. And so you got the childcare and then the housing, to go out and find a $560,000 home at 7% interest, these kids can't afford it. I mean, making whatever, and we can't. I'd love to go up and go pay, these more, but the reimbursement and all this stuff, it's not there. It's just, we're 64% Medicare and Medicaid and TRICARE. And so, they base it all on reimbursement and it's not out there. So I don't know the answer. It's something we think about all the time. Our HR team's here today and they are the best in the business and I love them there, but we're scrambling every day and we're trying to get other folks to come in, but there are people leaving every day. We lost somebody to South Dakota, somebody to go look at we're housing and other stuff, and we got to figure out a way. And I think things are coming. What we have going on with Cortair, with the Adams property up in, where we're going to have deed restricted homes, what Maggie Lyons and her team's doing, and all the other, there's not one answer, and I'm not waiting for the government. Sorry, Troy, we're not waiting for the government to fix all this, but we're going to have to figure out a way that businesses work together. And Miracle and Britt and 3 of our nurses are going in there. They're going to be here forever now. And it's just, how do we work together to do that? And so the uncertainty is big, but it's if we don't have the workforce, it's not going to matter, And so that's my.
I'm going to follow that, Rick, with another question that came up that I want to ask all of you. And it is, you mentioned the silver tsunami. A lot of folks think growth is we're all experiencing it. When I met Jamie for the first time, I thought, well, isn't that great? You're going to have a lot more patients, a lot more clients. And he was like, you dunderhead, you don't know how Medicare is funded, do you? And the answer was no, I didn't. Rick, how is Northwest Specialty Hospital, same with Heritage, same with Kootenai, going to deal with the change in population and demographics, and how will your organizations adapt?
So the way the funding works, and I came out of a different industry and got in here and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is how the funding works. So basically Medicare works is they look at your cost and then they figure out what the national average, and then they give you, say that this total knee replacement should be paid at X amount. So let's say it's $10,000 and then they look at all your costs. We make 89 cents on the dollar. So we'll make $8,900. There's other people that have higher costs that'll make more, but it's never enough. To Jamie's point, the way their formula works, there are people that play the game. There are hospitals in our state that just jack those things up so that they want to only see Medicare, Medicaid. and they end up costing our taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars because they don't want to see commercial payers. They get paid more on the Medicare, Medicaid, and then they get their reimbursement to 500-600%. These guys are, I don't know their reimbursement, I know it's nowhere near that. We're all trying to be honest. We're trying to run good businesses. So the reimbursement is horrible. It needs to be fixed. I've been to DC. Those guys don't like seeing me come in, but I just say, you know, there should be a cap. There should be something to help out all these folks because we want to stay in business. We want to keep helping people out because everybody who comes in here is somebody's brother, cousin, sister, relative. So for us, we got to just tighten our belt. We're looking all the time as to how do we, you know, try to do. So everybody in here, raise your hand. I want you to raise your hand as high as you can. Everybody in here, raise your hand as you can. High as you can. Mr. Adams, raise your hand as high as you can. Okay, Ryan, give me a little more. Ryan, can you give me? Okay, I said raise your hand as high as possible, but y'all can give a little more. And so we go out there and we ask everybody, just give me a little bit more. Just give me 1% more. You know, I go, team, give me your hand as high as possible. And I said, can you go higher? And then they'll go, and then somebody will jump on a chair and I'm like, that's what I need. I need a little bit more. We need a little bit more. So that's, I don't know if that's going to work, but that's what we're trying. We're going to try to do a little bit less. We're going to work with our partners. Why do we want to go into cardiology when Kootenai does such a great job? They do a great job delivering baby. We're not going to go, you know, so we partner with things. We look at where can work on stuff like behavioral health. We don't have that. We send them to Mike. Marine Health has been a great partner. We send folks down there. It's just, how do we utilize, I feel, and I'm stealing it from Linda Coppas, who did a phenomenal job yesterday, is everybody has a superpower, and let's live in this, you know, accentuate those superpowers. You know, I think that's the answer. I think that we do that and we can help out our community and we could be here for a long time because if not, and they keep cutting these things, it's going to be some tough decision time for all of us.
Yeah, the Medicare issue, I mean, it's hitting all of us. They haven't raised the payment rate for community health centers in like 13 years. We all know costs have gone up. It's really hard. So a lot of private offices aren't accepting new Medicare patients. And I mean, we're like, bring it on, we'll figure it out. I mean, that's how it works. But it really, it's that balance of just how do you pay your staff, you know, to take care of patients when, you know, costs have dramatically increased in the last 13, 15 years, whatever it's been. But to do it, and we're still doing it, right? Like you have to have a balanced payer mix. And like as Jamie was saying, commercial insurance rates are like our costs go up and it kind of gets gobbled up in that. So I think in federal conversations that you all have, right? I mean, we need to find a better way to fund healthcare and make sure people have access to it. So from the primary care front, we all know that if we take care of ourselves, less likely, like we're all ultimately going to end up at the hospital and need some really expensive procedures, but we should probably delay that as long as possible. Because there's enough out there, like, no, we're all way too busy. But there's a future point where we figure this out, people are living healthier lives, and you kick that out a little bit longer. And just imagine, like, the extra years of life when you're healthy and you're feeling good and you get to contribute to your community, you're at your grandkids' events. I mean, you're doing these things because the healthcare system helped you live a healthier life. We have to do that, and so we're all grappling with how do you provide that level of care when, I mean, you're essentially losing money every time somebody comes through that door. It requires a lot of continued reach. So I'm a short guy. I need like a huge ladder to get up there. But we've got it. I know we can do it.
Jamie, population demographics.
Well, I'm going to answer this question a little bit differently because it is challenging. But you know what? No whining. We have to figure it out too, right? Like every industry, better, faster, cheaper, right? We all have to transform. We all have to find new ways of doing things. And so I think that is to some extent not been as present, not in our healthcare community, but in the healthcare community at large, is just being too dependent, right, on the funding sources that are there and not thinking creatively about how you do things differently. So we've got to become more digital. We've got to harness the AI wave that's happening around the world. We've got to break through regulation. I think regulation is a big drain on what we do because we're forced to do things, not because it's smart, but because it's told we have to do it that way, right? So I think we have to be in that no whining category because we can't keep coming with our hat in our hand, right, and asking for more funding. That eventually is not going to win the day. So I wanted to answer that way.
Sure.
And then in terms of the silver tsunami,
Yes.
I see some silver.
Oh, there's a lot.
I don't know what the next thing after tsunami is, but it's here.
Hurricane. So the demographics of our community they do skew older, for sure. We look like Florida to some extent, or some other areas of the country. And the difficulty in terms of healthcare providers is that as you hit those older years, your healthcare utilization goes like that, right? So it's not just the population, a raw population number, it's that the utilization at 65 and older is super intense. And you have a need, our incidence of heart surgery, for instance, in this community is much higher than it would be in Denver, which is a younger community. So we need actually more resources than you might think for just the raw population because of the intensity of the healthcare needs of older people. And so I would say that's one thing. And then also older folks need certain things more than others. And so ICU care and very sophisticated and intense kinds of services. And you need critical mass of volume to be able to provide that in an excellent way. And so we struggle with, ironically, reaching those volume thresholds to be a center of excellence for things, to be able to invest because of the Medicare reimbursement being so low. We also need commercial patients as well in that mix, and we need scale, which Kootenai Health is achieving in many areas. But we are still not the size of a community that can say, we only have 3 heart surgeons, for instance, right? 3 heart surgeons for this whole community. They take call every 3rd night. I mean, can you imagine that as your lifestyle? I mean, we are on the razor's edge, right, of that program not being viable. But because we have 3 and they do a lot of volume per person, they have excellent outcomes. But we'd much rather have 6, right, and in every specialty. And so the silver tsunami or the aging demographic, it is a blessing and a curse, I guess. We love to take care of our whole community, and we want to do an excellent job at that. But at the same time, we need to have the margin that we can reinvest and be excellent at it. I think one of the worst things you can do in a community our size is be mediocre. Right? We don't want to be mediocre just because we're the only game in town. Like, that's not acceptable. That's not what we're all about. But to the extent that you can't make the right investments, and technology is so important, whether it's equipment or software or whatever the case is. We just spent $4 million on our laboratory. None of you know that, probably, right? We spent $25 million on our medical record system. And
Hey, wait, no whining. No.
I know. No, I'm sorry. I know I'm whining. See,
You
gotta
can always
hold me
whine about your
accountable.
medical record
Hold me accountable. But there are things that we need to do to be excellent that are infrastructure type things that nobody appreciates, like a roof on your house or whatever else. We have a lot of that as well. But okay, I appreciate you calling me out on that.
No, you're good. I was going to say Katie and Kim. That's the next billboard I want to see. Kootenai Health, no whining.
We have time, Brad and Kara, if there's a couple of questions from the audience, while people are there, we have one in the back. Brad, over to this side. And I'll just send one last question officially that was submitted pre. You guys have touched on it a little bit, but what commitments are you making to improve preventative care and try to bend the curve down for the timing that you talked about? And you can start again, Jamie, go down this way.
Yeah, I love that, because to Mike's point earlier, we would much rather not see you in the hospital. We're actually the only business that I'm aware of that doesn't actively sort of sell our services. People just kind of come to us when they need us.
In our best moments, too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So the idea that prevention is the best medicine is absolutely true. I would probably talk about screening. So colonoscopy, mammography, lung CTs, anything that we can do to get ahead of an advanced disease is absolutely a huge ROI. If you find breast cancer at stage 1, number one, it's obviously way more curable and has a better outcome, but it's also a lot less expensive, right, to take care than a stage 4 breast cancer. And you can multiply that by all the cancers. And so the screening age for colonoscopy is now down to 45, believe it or not. So if you're close to 45, schedule your colonoscopy. And that's based on evidence that you can find things earlier on and prevent these really expensive outcomes. So I would say screening and access to screening, sort of an awareness of what the benefits of screening are. Don't be the tough guy. Trust me. Go get screened. And that will be a huge benefit to lives, people's lives. I mean, to bring it down to that level, but then to the system as well in terms of cost.
Yeah, I mean, our whole reason for existing as a primary care organization is to catch this stuff early. The investment we're making in Center for Healthy Living is our commitment to this community. And in Rath, like all of our sites will have these types of services, but it's on you guys. So there's a lot of people in this room. What we said, about 400 people. So everybody, if you haven't had your checkup this year, commitment's on you. Like, we have appointments. Come see us. Go see your doctor, right? Like, don't, as Jamie said, don't put it off. Like, we've got to figure this out. There's this magic thing that happens. There's a lot of people in our community that are considered pre-diabetic. Your doctor's like, hey, you might want to think about this. And like in their head, they're like, come on, Mike, like stop eating that crap and exercise. But if you can just reduce 10% of your body weight and increase your physical activity, your mental health improves and your physical health improves, and it extends your life and it reduces the cost of healthcare down the line. Those things are simple. The magic, like I've used magic too often today, but like when we were working with the Kroc Center around the program that we're bringing back into the Center for Healthy Living, we were taking people out of the clinical setting, meeting with them at the Kroc Center, talking to them about the importance of physical activity, not just saying, hey, here's a prescription, go eat better and exercise. We walk alongside them and we show them what it looks like to eat better and exercise. We have to do that, and we need to normalize that amongst each other. So I would say that, like, I'm committed, we're gonna do everything you can, but you gotta show up. So 2 commitments for you: schedule your appointment and then talk to the person next to you and make sure that the next time you see them, they can say, hey, I scheduled my appointment. Just simple things like that will really improve the health of our community.
No, I totally agree, and I'm hoping to keep Ryan and Chris and Pat Eberlin and folks in business and trying to find more buildings. And it's family med, it's family med, it's family med. It's getting out there. I'm looking at my team right here. We got Josh and Heather are out every day trying to find, reminding people it's time to come in. Brian, my trusted friend I've worked with for 30-some years, and we got out there and we came from another industry and we're like, holy cow, you know, healthcare workers are great. And I know we have some doctors and other folks in here. They are way too optimistic. They think, I'll know when I'm not feeling good, but that blood work and other stuff. So for us, Chris came up and Katie and our HR team, you know, Jamie and we came up that in order to get money towards their health insurance, they got to go get on their wellness visit. And then they come in there and I had nurse after nurse come in there and say, I was feeling good, but you wanted the $1,000. So we went in there and then something popped up and now I could have a chance to fix it. So to go out there and the screening part, pooping in a box is not the same as a colonoscopy. No matter what they say, it is absolutely not the same. You are not going to have stuff fine on that. So
Hey,
don't
Northwest
watch those
Specialty,
commercials.
Can that be your billboard?
Yeah,
Put me in a box is not the same as colonoscopy. And no
Don't
whining.
try-
This will be
yeah.
great.
But you were doing that for a healthcare
Oh,
thing?
yeah, for sure. But I mean, I'm just, you know, the screening and doing that stuff. And so it's getting that mammogram and doing all that stuff and getting your kids in when they don't feel, because you catch it earlier, it's just that much better in the whole scheme of things. And it is about our community. You know, I went and got my colonoscopy a couple weeks ago, and somebody in here might have been my next door neighbor when that, you know, when they'd had that. And so it was one of those things. You check it at the door, you go do it, and you get it over, and then you're at, you know what you're going to be, because if they could find it better off, you know, it's just going to be that much better on the whole system and for you and your family. And think about them. Think about you're adding more life onto that. You know, I wish my dad would have had done more preventative stuff. I miss him every day. And so if we could help one person, if we could help one, you know, Charlie Nip to live 5 years longer, it's going to make this a better place here. So we go out and help whatever we can here. That's what we owe it to our community. So.
All right, we have a first question from the audience.
Hi, my name is John, local real estate owner and developer. And my question is for all of you, more specifically probably for Jamie and Kootenai Health. I wanted to make a comment on the Kootenai Hospitality Center. I was a volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House, and then that transition recently to the Kootenai Health Center. And I wanted to ask why that was and what prompted the move to move away from Ronald McDonald House, because they have a big presence in our community with the Kroc Center, and that center, they've got, you know, one in Spokane, obviously. What prompted that move to bring the Kootenai Hospitality Center back to Kootenai and owned and probably managed by yourself or other hospital folks?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you're going to challenge my level of detail here. Ronald McDonald, I think, just had a financial reality check. You know, we don't have a ton of pediatric patients at Kootenai because of our service mix. Most of that goes to Spokane as it should. And so I think it was really just a numbers thing, and raising money was harder as well. We were glad to take over the space, so no services changed. It's just who's managing the space. So we still offer no cost, low cost housing or space for patients and their families who are getting services in our community. So that's still there. It's just not run and operated by Ronald McDonald. That'd be the simplest way to put it.
Thank you. One more question in the back. Maybe, no one have, Kara doesn't have somebody? We've got one over here. Thank you. And by the way, we have another brief speaker, Russell Baker from the University of Idaho, talking about healthcare education. You do not want to miss that. So he'll be here, he's here, he'll be up in just a moment. So,
Hi.
Jessica.
Hi, Jessica Bonar, Packard Wheeler Succession. Many of you know I'm very passionate about recovery and access to recovery services for people in our community, which have diminished extraordinarily over the last several years. So with 16.7% of Americans actually suffered from a substance use disorder in the last year, what are the hospitals doing to increase access to detox, inpatient and outpatient recovery services in our community so that people don't have to leave our community to get well?
Thank you. Let me start down there, Rick, if you want to begin.
So unfortunately, we're physician-owned. You know, I think it's a fortunate thing, but as far as the government, you know, those regulations you talked about, we cannot get bigger than 43 beds. Obama, you know, care went into place in March of 2010, and it capped how many beds we can have at 43. So at that time, we had 6 ORs, we had 34 inpatient beds, and we had 3 procedure rooms. So at 43 was our cap. We've added up now, we're gonna have 12 ORs, we're gonna have 26. You know, we cannot grow. We'd love to be able to help out, but we cannot get any more beds because the government won't allow us to. So we have just not the capability to be able, we'd love to help out and we'd love to partner, but unfortunately we don't have the, as long as Obamacare is in place, we cannot grow our bed capacity to help out and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're going all in on substance use treatment, behavioral health services, as far as the front line, right? There's a need for residential treatment and, you know, people to stay. But back to what Jamie was talking about, it's really, we've had to be really creative. So as services drop, we're increasing the number of groups that we're having. We're doing things we can on the front end. Help us out. If you know a therapist that needs a job, you know, we're hiring people left and right in that behavioral health space. We need them. Until other services evolve in the community or we find another way to do it, we're really going to have to continue to rely on that frontline outpatient IOP stuff.
Yeah, it's a challenging area. Let me tell you what we do. So we do provide acute services for behavioral health in our emergency room and in the crisis center. So that's obviously a huge need. We do provide acute detox for folks that are at the extreme level. And we provide inpatient services for youth and adults. Youth is 10 and above, 10 to 18, the adult unit. We have 40 of our beds are dedicated to behavioral health. So we do a lot of services in that area. Where the gap is, and then maybe this is what you're referring to, is inpatient residential, which is longer-term treatment. We did provide that in the past, and it's simply not viable. And so we would love to do it, but we need some creativity, we need some partnership, we need some philanthropy, we need something else, because we are simply doing as much as we possibly can in the areas that we do provide services, and that is an area that we just haven't been able to make work. There was some, believe it or not, there was some volume issues too, and it's hard to believe, but that is true. So I don't have a great answer for there. That is a gap in the continuum for our community.
Folks, I want to thank all three of you. We have some parting gifts here, but please give a round of applause to our CEOs.
Wow, look at that.
You get gifts, Rick. You get a gift. You get a box of sugar candy. No, just kidding.
Thank you. Very healthy.
Here. I learned a lot today, and I learned things from Rick Rasmussen's mouth I didn't know that I needed to know. But Rick, that box is so cute when it dances on TV. Well, there's that. Our next speaker, brief but critically important, is also focused on healthcare from the education side of the issue. It's particularly important to us for education and those of us who are getting a little grayer at the temples. The need for regional healthcare training in Idaho is important. We have Russell Baker from the University of Idaho. Go Vandals. Dr. Baker is an associate professor at the University of Idaho and interim co-director of the School of Health and Medical Professions. He brings over 2 decades of expertise in advancing health professions. He has, as director, he's of the Office of Underserved and Rural Medical Research, an administrator in the Idaho WWAMI medical education program. His initiatives have significantly enhanced healthcare access and outcomes in Idaho's underserved communities. Dr. Baker, come on up and join us, please. Thank you. You can get around the back there, that'd be great.
Does it ever get less strange to hear yourself get introduced? I mean, it's always weird. I'd first like to thank Jamie, Mike, and Rick, because what we do in our program couldn't happen without support and partnerships that you all offer us. It truly is fantastic, so thank you very much. I'll try to be quick and useful with your time, but I was asked to speak about a week ago, and I just rewrote everything I was going to say because I listened to the past hour. It's an interesting situation we're in because I would agree with Jamie. We punch above our weight. I'm biased. I have great partners. I've visited their women's health and NICU center, and I was amazed and blown away by what's there. My daughter was also transported there at 3 months of age in the middle of the night and taken care of because of people at that facility. So it's fantastic stuff on that end. And I agree with Mike that we're also at a crisis. I'll use his words so I don't get in trouble. People are dying. And as a person who teaches research, I love statistics. But statistics are sometimes frightening. So if we think about the silver tsunami, our physician population is the oldest in the country. We are also 50th out of 50 states in physicians per capita. We have a primary physician shortage in every county in Idaho. Our nurses, our RNs and our LPNs, nearly 50% reside in Ada and Canyon counties. We are typically 2 to 4 nurses per 1,000 residents, lower than the national average or our regional state partners. Every county is a behavioral mental health shortage area. Our suicide rate is 76 times higher than the national average, and we want to keep asking them to punch above their weight. I don't know how long they can keep doing this, and they talked about the pipeline and us getting there, and that's sort of a challenge. And I think we have to understand that this transition has to happen now in order for us to offset what is coming. That if we wait on the education side, it will be too late. If we think we can migrate all the healthcare workers we want to Idaho, it's not going to happen. I'm a transplant. I was born and raised in Florida. I moved to California and realized there was something way better, and I came to Idaho. But we can't do that with everybody. And I love to tell them how awesome this place is and then say, wait, just kidding. Don't actually come here. But we have to understand there's a balance. The last economic impact analysis that we had done in 2021 talked about $450 million in healthcare costs leaking to the state of Idaho that could have been taken care of in our state. And our hospital groups are doing amazing stuff to change that. But we need to stop that, and we need people coming here to do their healthcare here because that's good for everybody. And so what we see here is this opportunity for us to all work together and be part of this solution. And we're hoping to do that at the University of Idaho. We started the School of Health and Medical Professions about 1.5 years ago. Thankfully, because of people in this room, we are growing opportunities. We are starting the first CdAEDC, which is a clinical doctorate for clinical psychologists. It is different than the PhD. Traditionally, that is about 6 graduates a year. The CdAEDC program will graduate 20 to 30 providers per year. And the beauty, they'll be trained in Northern Idaho. And that matters because where people are trained, it is the biggest predictor of where they then practice. But we can't do that without the support of people in this room. That program got across the finish line because the voices in this room told our state that it was needed. And we'll have a successful program if we have clinical sites in Northern Idaho to train them, and we have places for them to live as students and afterwards. We were worried about losing medical education training this legislative cycle. And the voices were loud, and we have the opportunity not only to save what we've been doing at the University of Idaho, 52 years of WWAMI, we have the opportunity to grow by 30 seats in the next few years, which will be almost a doubling of our medical education training in the state. It's fantastic. Our goal, however, is to make sure that those students are trained in rural Idaho with a focus on Northern Idaho, to get them into clinical placement faster, train them faster in these areas, and get them staying and practicing in the state of Idaho. I'll get in trouble for saying this, Brad, don't tell people. My ultimate goal is that we actually have multiple education tracks. I would love a 3-year, you can hold me to this, a 3-year program to train primary care providers so they're in practice 1 year faster than we currently have through the system. But we need more. We need to partner with our sister institutions. We have a proposal to have an MSN program, so Master of Science in Nursing, that is desperately needed. We want that training to be done in Northern Idaho, but we also need to support ISU, BSU, and LCSC in their nursing programs and making sure that they are funded properly to meet the needs. There are scary statistics. We came back from a conference, and it was something like, don't quote these numbers, in the state of Texas alone, their programs were fully at capacity and they turned away 1,800 qualified applicants. I guarantee we could get a few of those to come to a program in Idaho. But it's those sorts of support at the legislative and state board levels that will get us there. So your policy advocacy and community partnership is key. Your support in developing clinical partnerships and placements is key. Welcoming people to these communities is key. When we put our students in these communities, that is the #1 thing. I was talking to Jamie before the session tonight, or this afternoon, that tells you where my head is, traveling with kids. We have a RUOP program where our students spend time in our rural communities. And I would tell you 50% of the kids that go in that program tell me they would never work in a rural community until they spend 8 weeks there. Your interactions with them when they are in these sorts of community changes the way they view practicing there, and that is super helpful in us retaining them in those communities. That is the #1 predictor of whether or not they're gonna come back. We also need your help, though, growing education in other ways. What we do is considered UME, undergraduate medical education or professional level training. We also need graduate training. Our residencies has expanded, but we need more support there. We also need internships in other places. Currently, for clinical psychology, there are only 3 APA accredited internships for a total of 13 seats. And every county is lacking clinical psychologists. It's gonna be real hard to get there with 13 seats a year. And we've got to fix that. We have an opportunity to grow that, though, and move forward. Why this is important to me is this is now my home state. I've seen my daughter cared for here. The only way that we continue to have the growth we have and the prosperity we have is if people believe that they can live here and age here. I grew up in Florida. I saw what happens when you don't do that well. And we have this opportunity to advance our healthcare in the state, to partner with these programs, to generate enough healthcare workforce to see different opportunities. For instance, we have our North Idaho Area Health Education Center. Its primary job is K-12 pipeline programming. How do we get students in 8th grade to see themselves as a healthcare provider, whether that's sonography, lab tech, or a physician? And it's finding ways to work with all of you, our K-12 school system, to our physicians, to our hospital administrators, to get that done. And that will create opportunities for economic benefits. My last statistics that I'll leave you with from our economic impact analysis. The WWAMI program, the 40 students alone, contributes $582 million in sales contributions per year and a gross state product of $322 million. The average Idaho doctor supports 12 jobs and generates approximately $2 million in economic benefit per physician. Investing in the healthcare education programs and getting these people to practice in the community will only benefit everybody. Your healthcare, your children's healthcare, your grandchildren's healthcare, and the lives that we have. Thank you for all of you in the room that support not only our healthcare system, but our education system. We could not do it without you. Thank you for having me.
Nicely done. Thank you very much. Thank you, Russell. What a wonderful story about your daughter and being cared for. We had 7 kids at Kootenai Health, Jamie, and I didn't even get a free coffee stamp, so something you need to work on. I'm reminded Dina Nakarada was here. The agency, CdAEDC's board, unanimously endorsed the support of both levies for Post Falls and Lakeland school districts coming up in May and May 20th. Please get out and vote early, vote often, but certainly vote by May 20th. Thank you, Russell. Last notes. Thank you for your attendance. We hope to see you at next year's event slated for spring. You know, we had moved this for a couple of times after the pandemic. If you're interested in becoming an investor, please fill out those cards and either give them to one of us, Lauren's got them there, or give us a call and touch base. I want to thank our sponsors again, our premier sponsors, Pinkerton Retirement, Jacqueline Land and Riverbend, STCU, Spokane International Airport, Idaho Central Credit Union, ICCU, and Stancraft Companies. Thank you all very much. Pinkerton was very generous and left some lovely gifts. There's other gifts. STCU has some things as well, so be sure at your tables to take the gifts. Thank you, Dan, for your generosity there. Thank you to our event sponsors, the Coeur d'Alene Resort, Numerica Credit Union, Lewis Clark State College, Young Construction Group, Interstate Concrete and Asphalt, and Kootenai Health. Thank you to our guests, elected officials, investors. Special thank you to Knock Marketing for once again creating a great, fantastic event program. Thank you to the folks at Knock. Good work. And to our staff who put this together, Ginny, Lauren, Josh, Bud, to the board. Thank you all again, and remember, no whining. Our meeting is adjourned.